I was born in La Paz, in Santiago Memoalco,
Okay.
and like many people, I had to go to the US. And my mother took me in '89, and we made our journey by land.
Mhm.
And we moved to San Francisco, California, and that's where I grew up. Um, I started studying art not because we could afford it, but because my school had an excellent arts program that was free, and it was something for me to do. So um, I always start with that story because it's important that people understand that that is what my work is about. You know, I'm showing work most recently in Korea, but I have a piece at Hauser and Wirth in London um, in the next week. And in September, I have shows in Berlin, Beirut, Dubai, Paris, Rome. Um, so they're getting shown in all of these different contexts. And it's important for me to bring that story with me in those places. Porque quiero contar esa historia y quiero contar la historia del país. I mean, hay muchas veces que gente me dice, oh, ¿de dónde sos? Y yo digo, El Salvador. Y, y la primera cosa que dicen es, ¿a dónde es eso? So, yo les tengo que como educar,
Ujú.
les tengo que decir, es un país y tuvimos una guerra bien difícil. Mis obras son como una oportunidad de contar esta historia. My work is about my life,
Ujú.
but it's also a way of connecting with people that have a similar story. And very often, our voices are not heard in cultural institutions like big galleries and big museums. So, you know, I come from very humble background. So it's kind of like I'm entering these spaces where historically I haven't been allowed to be present in. And I bring with me all of the people that I represent. So it's kind of like navigating across borders and re-identifying what these spaces are for people like us. They understand it as best as they can. So, for example, in Korea, it wasn't necessarily about me being from El Salvador. People connected to my paintings because they loved the work that they saw, um, which is kind of great because it means that my work is talking about a human experience. It's not talking about specifically the history of El Salvador to these people, even though that's what I'm thinking. It's talking about a human condition. Uso ese nombre porque it helps to decentralize me as the almighty powerful artist. I actually started with dance, so we would dance in a studio, and I like this idea that a studio is just space. A space, it could be a physical space or a mental space, a space for experimentation. It isn't defined as a painting studio or a sculpture studio or a photography studio or a fashion studio. It can be all of those things, just like my practice. It includes all of those things. And Lenca son la gente indígena de Honduras y parte del Salvador. And my mother had roots in Honduras and El Salvador. So it's kind of like in honor of her. Well, it's a combination of things. This art is how I see the world.
Mhm.
So it is me. There's no denying. And I've had to do jobs, you know, in cafes or just whatever jobs I can get. But I'm always making work as an artist. And it isn't up until maybe 2.5 years or 3 years that people started to recognize the work that I was doing. It's also a combination of my mother, because she never stopped me from making art. She never put me down. Perhaps she didn't understand what was happening, but she was open enough to allow me the space to do what I needed to do. So I think it's a combination of those two things, support and, yes, a persistence. Yes. I would say to people that want to be an artist is you just need to do it. You just need to do it, and you just need to be it, and your work will find itself in the world. Yo creo que mi primer show quizás fue en el garaje de mi mamá cuando yo hacía shows para ella.
Okay.
Pero oficialmente yo estudié en Londres en la Universidad Goldsmiths, y para el degree tuve que hacer un show. So eso fue quizás mi primer show. So mi primer solo show fue en Edinburgh, que es en Scotland. Y eso fue este agosto. De verdad, pintores, no. Pero hay una artista que se llama Pina Bausch, y ella es, she's a choreographer, and her work is very visual.
Okay.
So I always think about her work. And on my trip here to El Salvador, I have really fallen in love with the work of Antonio Bonilla, que es un pintor salvadoreño.
Sí.
No, la última vez fue hace 9 años. I mean, usualmente voy a La Paz, a Santiago Nonualco con mi familia a pasar vacaciones, pero esta vez me he venido solo para encontrarme con artistas, visitar los museos que están aquí, y me siento muy orgulloso de todo eso, porque es la primera vez that I'm starting to understand what is here. And it's kind of like I'm educating myself. I'm very proud of what the diaspora is achieving. I live in the UK, so there's a tiny community of Salvadoran people. So I feel isolated from the diaspora, for example, in America, in the United States, rather. But I sort of feel a little bit like an ambassador, my work. Like I was saying, to try and put the country in a positive light, because it's been in the public for very negative things, very violent histories. So my work seeks to introduce joy into the public story of El Salvador. La primera cosa que pienso es que yo quiero regresar a pintar aquí en un estudio, pero vamos a ver si es posible, porque veo tanta inspiración, por ejemplo, en los mercados, utilizar los materiales que veo, los colores de las tienditas, la naturaleza. Y I want to explore, and I want to develop my work in a very authentic way. And I think I have to come back more often.